I wasn't able to take my table over there, but the maintenance crew in my unit, they actually went out when we were in Iraq. They went and scavenged all these buildings and everything, man, and they found wood, plywood. They, ripped out, the seating of trucks and everything, and they actually made me a flat bench when I was in Iraq. So the hands-on experience, man, I
Yeah.
really, I was not only taking care of our unit, but people started coming from all over the base.
Well, welcome everybody. Dr. Ron Oberstein, president of Life Chiropractic College, Wellston. Welcome to another edition of our Life West Leadership Line. Today, I've got a dear friend from St. Louis, Missouri, East St. Louis, South St. Louis. I'm not sure exactly, but St. Louis, Missouri. I've got Dr. Xaivier Tipler with us, and Xavier's got an amazing story around chiropractic along with what he's doing. And I'll just kind of give you a little synopsis of what Dr. Xaivier is doing. He's 2006 graduate of Logan. He's on the board of Logan College of Chiropractic, or Logan University, I should say. He is a veteran of our military services, and we'll go into that a little bit because it's a really cool story. And then he's involved in all kinds of, besides the board of Logan, he's involved with ABCA, the American Black Chiropractic Association, on the board there. He's the founder of Evoke, which is a organization that helps students and doctors, from minority backgrounds get their practices going, teach them, and show them ways of doing things, from people that look like them and people that think like them. And it's really amazing. I spoke at one of their conferences. It was just incredible. He's also, more than anything, he's a father and he's a husband, father of five. His oldest is 22 and his youngest is 6 months. So, man, I tell you,
Full
you're a
spectrum.
busy guy. I got to tell you that, dude. And originally from Southeast Missouri, from a town called New Madrid or New Madrid,
Yeah,
depending on the
take your pick.
Spanish or the French, right? And
Yes.
and I heard a really cool story, man. What you told me, man, I was like, there's a fault line. Me in California, we got fault lines everywhere. We don't think about it. There's a major fault line, right, that runs
Yeah,
underneath New
yeah.
Madrid.
The New Madrid fault line. It hasn't been active over years, but there was a major earthquake back in the 1800s that left the old town under the Mississippi River.
Wow,
And it was said that that earthquake is actually the earthquake that cracked the Liberty Bell.
really?
That's how far spread the aftershocks were felt.
I love it. I want to know if the people in Philadelphia actually say the same story, but
Yeah, I know, right?
I love it. I love it. Well, dude, it's so great to have you, man. We always have a good time when we're with each other, and we see each other quite a bit. But I'm just tickled pink to have you with us today. And would you just share with our viewers, like, your story? Like, how just we'll
Yeah.
just start with, we're going to get into stuff around healthcare and things like that. But how'd you get into chiropractic?
Well, first off, man, it's a pleasure being here, Dr. Overstein, man. I don't know what it is, man, but the connection when I first met you, I can really say I look at you as almost, you got one of those favorite uncles that you had growing up, where you could tell you were from the same family, but not really, and you had similarities and things like that. So, I really appreciate all that you do, man, and just the friend that you've been to me over the years. But, when it comes to chiropractic, man, I never knew that chiropractic one would be the profession that I would be practicing in right now because coming up, small, black, young kid, black guy from, a small town in Missouri, I knew nothing about chiropractic. And it wasn't until my junior, senior year, and it was my senior year in undergrad, where I happened to really stumble across it from a recruiter at Logan that stopped me and my friend on our way to class and just started asking us about chiropractic or what our plans were. I had no idea about chiropractic, but my original plan was to really just be a physical therapist. And
Uh-huh.
I say just a physical therapist, because chiropractic has brought me so much more than what I could have, ever imagined, just from the first time hearing it.
Yeah, and you played, but tell the audience, like you played college football, right?
I was a three-sport athlete in college. I played football. I walked on the basketball team my sophomore year, and continued playing. And then I was also a an All-American high jumper
Wow.
in college as well. So, it was it was actually an injury that I had in undergrad playing basketball, that really a really bad back injury, man. And really, so my first exposure was after I had that accident. I went through the whole physical therapy, went through all that, the pain injections, the pain pills, muscle relaxers, physical therapy, and it just didn't seem to do anything to help. And a friend of mine that played basketball with me, he was from the area, and he took me to a chiropractor that he and his family had been to for years.
Right.
And, it didn't go for an extended period of time, but a couple of adjustments that I got at that time really got me back playing, basketball on the court, where I didn't really have any of the back issues. And when I stumbled across that recruiter, probably a year later, it's like, you know what, maybe this is something I should give a shot. So, and lo and behold, man, here I am,
Yeah.
almost over 20 years later.
Yeah, and I think it like it tells a story too. We'll get into it, but it tells a story about, you're a young black gentleman coming out of, Southeast Missouri,
Yeah,
and it's like, was chiropractic even in your purview? Like, was even forget
not at
about your
all.
rear view mirror or your side view mirror,
Yeah.
wasn't there was just nothing in front, and
That was nothing. We had one doctor in the town, and he was the medical doctor. He was the your OBG. He was everything to everybody. And he was an Asian. So being young at that time, you look at doctor, and that's what you aspire to be, because hey, you want to do something different
yeah,
than the norm that was going on in in your environment. But it wasn't anything that you could really see. So it took a lot of vision, just a lot of determination to really get out of the area that I grew up in, and wanting to do something and wanting to be something.
yeah.
But chiropractic was nowhere in the picture,
No, no,
not
no.
even the word.
And you know what? And it's still true. It's got to be still true today in a lot of communities,
Definitely.
right? Especially
Oh yeah.
especially African American communities.
Yeah. I'll tell you this, man. Last week I spoke at an event in Jefferson City, the capital of Missouri. There was an event put on by the Department of Health and Human Services, by this organization, the Missouri Institute on Aging Minorities. And first time that they had ever had a chiropractor speak. So when I spoke and talked about chiropractic and the benefits, I mean, it just blew the people away. And what was really exciting about it, and I think the thing that touched me the most, is that they had all these seniors from the Kansas City area, the St. Louis area, and they had a big group that came up from the area that I grew up in.
Yeah,
Now, a lot of the people I didn't know from that area, but they had heard of my name. They knew the last name. I knew some of their last names, so there were some relations and people that we knew in common. But I tell you, for them to hear me speak on chiropractic, still in that area, there's not many chiropractors that practice in that area. And the ones that do, they're obviously, they're white, but they just never knew about chiropractic, never knew the benefits. And these are people in there, 60 plus. So it was really heartwarming to be able to stand in front of them, someone that came from that grew up, from the same area that they're in,
yeah,
that really made it out. And then for them to hear me speak, I mean, man, I was getting hugs and people telling me how proud of how proud of me they were, just simply because of what I've done, what I've accomplished. And I tell you, the one biggest thing, uh, my freshman year in high school, there was a lady from that area. She started a program called Kids Beat. And me, my friends, a lot of my cousins, all of us that kind of grew up together, we were like the first group of kids that she took through this program. She would take us to all these different amusement parks throughout Missouri. She was really the one that helped get kids out of that environment to see things different,
Wow.
expose us to different things. Do you know this lady was at that program?
Wow.
She over the years, it's been over 30 years that she continued to do this program. So then she got the attention of a lot of people. They started giving her funding. So now she does a lot of work for the state, for the seniors, for public health and things of that nature. And she just contacted me last night. Last night, she's holding another event that she wants me to speak at again for seniors. So, chiropractic has really allowed a lot of things to come full circle for me.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of other things that I'll share as we continue. But I'm just grateful, man, for what it has really brought me, what has given me the opportunity to do, to share with people, as well as and in particular, those minorities um, that just don't really have the opportunity or have the access to it.
Yeah. Well, BJ said that you never know how far reaching, right? Something you may say, think, or do today.
Exactly.
And can affect the lives of millions tomorrow. And it's just like that. And it's not
Yeah.
just chiropractic. I mean, look at this woman, I mean, how
Uh-huh.
inspiring was that for her to see the one of the first people that she,
Yeah.
kids that she had
Yes.
in her group and watching you, because I get it, man. All of a sudden you can be in a small town, stuck in a small town,
Yes.
just stay in a small town, stay in the factories, whatever happens to be over there, and not make it out. That's a lot of people just, that's just kind of like the life that they live, and it's not bad, but it's just what it is until you start
It
taking them
is.
out and showing them what's possible, right?
Exactly. The
you know
possibilities.
but talk about this, man, because I know you got drafted, right? Well, not drafted, you were
Uh-huh.
in, you went into the guard afterwards, right? And then
I did.
when you were in chiropractic school, you're in the National Guard, and then you ended up going over, where'd you go, to Afghanistan or Iraq?
I went to Iraq. Uh-huh. So now and that's the crazy thing as well, because before I graduated undergrad, my last year, I was like, well, I'm going to chiropractic school. I know it's going to cost a little money. So what ways can I offset that cost? And I decided to join the Army, the Army Reserves. So I did basic training, all those different things. As soon as I finished, I moved to St. Louis, started at Logan. And, I started at Logan in 2000. 2001, 9/11 happened. And, it kind of all went from there. I remember, man, when I saw all that event that happened and took place on that day. We were in school, we were in class, and then there was a friend of mine in school. He was like, "Oh man, Xavier, we may end up going to war, man. You may end up going to war." I'm like, "Nah, thinking Army Reserves, I don't belong in war."
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but 2 years later, the beginning of 2003, my unit was activated, so I was pulled out of school to do training for about 3 months. I thought at that time we were going to be sent over, but we did training for about 3 months and they released us. So I got back enrolled at Logan. And then later on that year, November of 2003, we got activated again. We started the training, and then at the beginning of 2004, we were actually shipped over to Iraq. So I actually had just less than a year left to graduate. I remember I was a Tri 7 getting ready to go into finals in November when we got activated, and I'm running around. They gave us 72 hours to get everything together and report. And I'm like, man, I got tests that I need to take. I got this. I got to get my house. I got to get things put into storage. Um, but I tell you, man, there are people that truly understand. They probably didn't really understand what I was going through, but they did everything that they could to really help me transition within those 72 hours. So I remember taking tests like back after back, and the professors at that time at Logan, they were really working with me, trying to get me in, to get those tests taken early. so that I could at least complete Tri 7 after going through the entire semester.
Yeah.
And so it was a trying time, but it was something. There was a little fear involved with that, but God kept me and blessed me with the opportunity to really experience yet something else
Yeah.
different, and then blessed me with the opportunity to come back as well.
Yeah. So how long were you there for?
I was there for a year and a half. I was out of school for about 2 years, but actually in Iraq for a year and a half,
Wow. Wow.
serving in Iraq. I was a truck driver, so it was a long shot from being a chiropractor, right? I went from, training to be a healthcare provider, and then now, hey, you're going to use all the muscle and everything that I had, driving trucks. So it was a big switch, but I think the biggest thing, man, just leadership.
Yeah.
At the time that I went over to Iraq, I was a sergeant at the time. I came back a staff sergeant, but I was actually a squad leader. So I had about six other guys that were directly under my watch when the entire time that I was in Iraq. So I really took it upon myself, man, to take care of them and make sure that we were equipped, and that I could give them the best leadership possible, man, so that we could all make it back home.
Absolutely. Well, number
Yeah,
one, thank you for your service. I mean, it's like, and I thank every veteran I meet. So thank you, and I really mean that from the bottom of my heart. We were talking earlier. My dad's 98 years old, and he's a
yeah, yeah.
World War
That's
II
amazing.
vet. And everywhere he goes, if he's got his hat on, and people just give up their chairs. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
hopefully they would because he's 98, but they see that and they thank him for the service that he gave in World
yeah,
War II. But I thank you so much because those are crazy times. But how'd you stay connected to chiropractic? I think I know the story, but you know,
yeah. So when I went, man, I took two books with me. I took the Bible and I had Stevenson's text. And that's, my reading all the time was of course with the Bible, and then reading Stevenson's text. There was so much relation that started to kind of manifest from the readings of the things in the Bible, and then with the 33 principles, and really understanding, man, that chiropractic is being a believer of God, and understanding that he's the sole power, the provider in my life, and directs everything that I do. It was really easy to understand the 33 principles. So that really kept me connected to the philosophy
yeah,
of chiropractic, and kind of that bare bone philosophy of chiropractic. But then the biggest thing was, because everyone in my unit knew that I was in chiropractic school. When we would go to drill every, once a month, I would always take my portable table, and I got my practice with adjusting with the entire unit. So I wasn't able to take my table over there, but I had some a dedicated team over there, man. The maintenance crew in my unit, they actually went out when we were in Iraq. They went and scavenged all these buildings and everything, man, and they found wood, plywood. They, ripped out, the seating of trucks and everything, and they actually made me a flat bench when I was in Iraq. So the hands-on experience, man, I
yeah.
really, I was not only taking care of our unit, but people started coming from all over the base. It's like, hey, you guys I heard you got a chiropractor or something in your unit. Can they check us out? So next thing you know, man, I had lines of people just coming, wanting to be adjusted.
It's incredible too, because you think about it, you go through school. And I see this every day, and rightfully so. You go through school, you got so much going on. It's so impactful, and you've got classes, you've got clinic, you've got,
Yeah.
tests, you've got national boards, you've got all these things happening, right? And
Uh-huh.
we teach a lot. We teach probably more philosophy at Life West than any other college, I'd say,
Yeah.
at least as much, if not more. And I could see how taking that break and just having Stevenson's with you, on the chiropractic
Yeah.
side, of course, the Bible, but Stevenson's with you, how you could just, without all that other stuff coming in, you can just
Exactly.
dive deep in, and really start to
Yeah.
own it. And obviously, it shows in your practice. You've got a high volume practice. You've got two practices, uh,
Yes.
and it's six. You got what, three, five in your office in right in
Yeah.
Missouri, and then another practice with another doc that you guys just opened up, and so
Yeah.
six docs total and taking care of people. And I mean, it just shows, and that's where it comes from. It comes from our what we have inside of us. I mean, I so believe that. I so know that. I don't even believe it. There's no belief in
Yeah.
it. I know it. You can be a great adjuster, not own the principle, not own the philosophy, and you know what? You'll just be a great adjuster. But when you
Right.
have the philosophy and you have the goods that you can deliver, man, I mean, people just get it, and they
Yeah.
understand what you're doing, why you're doing it, and why they want to come back and be there for the rest of their lives. It's crazy.
And one of the other things to add to that, Doc, is just a heart for humanity, just a heart to serve, because there's all different levels to serve, and I think I've been able to experience quite a few. And when you just have that heart for people and really want to help in any way that you can, chiropractic is probably the greatest profession to one of the greatest professions to be able to do so. The power of touch, uh, to be able to listen and hear what people are dealing with and just connect with them. But then being able to provide a service that I don't think there's any other profession is able to do at the level that we are capable of doing as chiropractors, and that is something, man, that really drives me every single day, and that's just that heart of service,
Yeah.
selfless service.
Yeah, selfless. I love it. I love it. I love it, man. Talk to me about this, because we were talking about like the changing landscape, right, of healthcare,
Uh,
especially chiropractic in that landscape, right?
yes,
What are you seeing? And I'm really curious of what you're seeing from a black man's perspective.
yeah,
Like, what are you
yeah.
seeing?
Well, I think the first thing when we took, looking at healthcare, obviously, when we look at healthcare as it is right now, you really have AI that's on the rise. So there's a lot of technology now that's going into the healthcare system, and what that tends to do when you look at it from a minority standpoint, if minorities were already left out of, we'll say, this older model in how healthcare was, with access, doctors that are not looking like them, and all these different factors, socioeconomic, all these things that play a role in the lack of healthcare in minority communities, the more that AI becomes this this intricate piece of healthcare, you continue to marginalize and really expand on just that population that's really able to utilize these things. When you look at health insurance really dictates what a lot of people choose to do and what they are not able to do. So I feel like the more that technology is good, AI is good, the movement is a good thing, but there's also a downside to it. And what I always tend to look at and what I see from the environment that I'm in is that downside as it pertains to minority communities, because now you have a lot of people that's on Medicaid, Medicare, where yes, these services may be covered, but it's not something that you go to my small town, they're not going to be as technologically advanced as a bigger city. So those people will suffer when it comes to their health and being healthy, knowing what it takes to be healthy, and all these options that are out there. So it leaves a large majority of people behind when it comes to health. So when I look at the chiropractic landscape, as I was mentioning earlier, I talked to a group that came from the area that I grew up in, and something as simple as chiropractic. They're not able, they haven't heard about it. Two, the access, all these different factors. Again, I was looking at some of the numbers, and when I look at the population of minorities in this country, it's still around 14, 15%. So when we look at doctors, medical doctors, surgeons, chiropractors, physical therapists, anyone in that healthcare field, that number is very much smaller than what the population of minorities is. So not only is that a problem for the community, but it's also a problem for healthcare.
Yeah.
And those are things that I see that's going to really continue to affect minorities and how they view healthcare, their ability to receive good healthcare, and just their overall state of health.
Yeah. And I don't think people realize, I mean, I'll tell you, especially the white community, they don't realize how important it is for minorities to have the same minority serve them as a doctor.
Right,
You know,
right.
coming from the non-minority, so to speak, right? You know,
Uh-huh.
in the Caucasian community, you know, my doctors were always Caucasian. They were always,
Hmm.
looking back on my history, they were always Caucasian. And you know, going from my family doctor, you know, when I was a little
Right.
kid, you know, and going all the way through. And it's just interesting that you know, it's just not in our mirror, you know, in our window to be able to see that, but realize that there's so many people who don't trust doctors who
Oh
are of
man.
different, you know, different
Yeah.
minorities or different, we'll just say race, creed, or color, you know, that kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
And I think it's
Yeah.
important for people to understand that we need, if we want to serve this level of population, I love what you said. AI, I mean, my gosh, you know, it's phenomenal, but
Yes.
who's it leaving in the dust? You know,
Right.
if that kind of thing, and yet still serving people, being servants. You know that we need to have a lot more minorities. You know,
Yeah.
jump into our profession, all professions, but jump into our profession. You know.
Exactly. It takes the work of everyone because I really, when I'm speaking to minority students, I really push that issue to them and helping them to see the difference that they can make, coming out of chiropractic school. I mean, that we have the potential to make a huge dent in chiropractic itself
Yeah.
because if there's 14% of the population minority, but less than when we look at the overall population of people that utilize chiropractic care, I mean, that number has been the same for years
Right.
since I was in school, and now 18, almost 20 years out in practice, I'm still hearing that same number. We're
Yeah.
we're seeing around, 7, 8% of the population. Well, we can add to that as minorities if we go out and we actually really take chiropractic to these communities that need it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Well, one thing we have to, just on the number side, one thing we have to realize is that the population has increased. So,
Uh-huh.
so we're seeing more people, but it's still the same percentage, right? Like if we're at
Yeah.
2 billion and now we're at 3 billion and we're still at, I will say
Exactly.
10%, you know, we're seeing, but we're not going over that Mendoza line. Like that line is just staying there, you know. And I'll
Yeah.
tell you something else that's interesting. You know, I just got a statistic. I'm into data, and I just got a statistic about Life West a couple weeks ago, right? And I'm
Uh-huh.
always tracking, but I wanted to know, like, what is it right now? We're 33% Caucasian right now, right? We were
It's amazing.
38% about a year and a half ago. We're 33% Caucasian. And yet, if you walked in our doors, we're still the Caucasian is still the largest percentage of
Uh-huh.
people of the group, largest group
Right.
at the college. So if you walk through, you can walk through and go, yeah, there's a lot of white people here, but it's only 33%. You know, Asian
Uh-huh.
is second, right? And yet what was really inspiring for me was that our black population, it's always been sitting at 2%, and now we're at
Uh-huh.
4% or 5%, right? And
Uh-huh.
but it's just for me, it's not growing fast enough. I'm the kind of guy like, you know, I want to see results like that, you know.
Right.
I want to make change. Let's get it like that, you know. But it's growing, and that's the main thing. And yet,
Yeah.
you know, we gotta, in my vision, we have to see a chiropractic college on a historically black university. You know, um,
That would be nice.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. That would be
you know,
great.
yeah. I mean, it's just, you know, and I still, it's so important. And I'm not talking about from just a minority aspect. I'm talking about from a human aspect,
Uh-huh.
that we've
Yeah.
got a segments of humanity that aren't
Yeah.
receiving what we have because we don't have people who can serve them.
That's true.
And that
Yeah.
hurts. That hurts. I don't care what segment it is, that hurts.
Yeah.
Because everyone should have the opportunity to have their nervous systems checked for vertebral subluxation.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah. And I think it's something else to add to that is when you look at that, mentioning HBCU, how many of those students that are in college, that chiropractic is even an option for them.
Exactly.
So so it's not that there are people, that there's not enough people out there, but you're not going to be interested in something that you know nothing about.
That's right. There's no
Uh,
awareness, man. You said we walk into a kinesiology class, and I don't care where you are. You could be at a black university, you could be at a white university,
yes,
you could be at a green university. It doesn't matter. You walk in, and you ask that group, you ask that class of 100, 200 students, how many have thought about chiropractic? You
right.
might get like 2% or 3% of the hands go up, if that. You know,
If that,
this is what we have to do. We need to make a difference like that to be able to get to these students. Even before that, we got to get to them in high school. So the way
yeah,
these students are tracking these days, a lot aren't even going to college, but we got to get to them in high school. We got to get to your town,
uh-huh,
New Madrid, or Madrid, depending if you're on the Spanish or the French side. But we got to get there and make a difference, and
yeah,
everywhere. And that's, it's a big job, and it's something that we can do, especially
yeah,
with the resources that we have now. That's where we got
yeah,
to use AI. That's where we have to use,
exactly.
that's what we
That's
have
where it
to
becomes
use it.
very
Yeah.
useful.
Yeah, use it
Yes,
for
yeah,
everybody. Dude, you're so inspiring, man. And I want to thank you. A lot of people don't know about Evoke, that what
hmm,
Evoke is really about is just bringing in minority doctors and letting them see how to do things and how they can make a difference, because the role models aren't necessarily out there or easily accessible
right,
out there. You've
exactly.
created a haven for people to come to be able to see, to be able to be with others of like color, of like race. It's just cool that it's that you guys created this so that people can become more successful in what they do.
Yeah,
And thank you, because it's super important. APCA is important. LACA, the Latin American Chiropractic Association, is
yes,
important, and all these groups are important. And
yeah,
we just got to keep bolstering and keep moving and keep that going. And it's happening. I mean, at
it
least at
is.
Life West, our landscape is changing, and I hope it is at other colleges too. And I'd like to believe it is at other colleges. But it's just so cool. So, hey, dude,
Yeah,
our time's running out, but man,
I
I love you,
appreciate it.
and I'm glad you think of me as an uncle. I just got five more bonus nephews, right? I'll tell you what just happened to me recently, man. I got two. So right now, I've got three biological grandchildren, and I got a daughter due in October and coming up in a month or so, and I got a daughter due in January. And so now I'm
Wow.
five, and then my daughter in January just got married, and her husband has four kids. So I got four bonus grandchildren. So I'll take bonus kids all day. My wife and I got we'll take them on as great nephew and nieces, man. It's great. I said to my wife, like,
Oh,
what do we do at Christmas? How does that whole thing work? Kind of deal. We'll be all over the place, but it's exciting and we love it.
hey, a growing family, man, is always it's always a good thing, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Family
It's the
is
heart.
everything. Yeah,
Right. It's
family
everything,
is
man. It is.
everything.
It's the heart of it, and it's so beautiful. So, hey, Doc, thank you. I appreciate you, and I appreciate all you're doing for chiropractic. You know that myself, Life West, is always here, for you. I know you're embedded in Logan, and I think that's awesome and what you're bringing to that college. And just know that we love and appreciate you and your servant heart and all that you're doing to make a difference. So just take that to your heart, because I really mean it.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that, Doc. Man, I respect you so much, and again, I just appreciate you having me here.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And to
Yeah,
our audience, thank you. I think what we touched on today with Dr. Xaivier is super important. And I think that, first of all, every one of us should be saying every day to at least three people, you ever thought about being a chiropractor? Because if
hmm,
that wasn't happening, then, that's how we can spread chiropractic. Because most people,
right.
that's going to open up the question of, well, tell me about that, or what would that look like, or whatever. And that's what we have to do. We just got to ask the question, right? Let people know that it's there. But thank you, for all that you're doing to our audience, for our audience. Thank you for sharing our message. Thank you for sharing these Life West leadership lines with others. There's a lot that goes out, and a lot of information that goes out and gets disseminated, but you can tell on these broadcasts, this is just simply the truth, when we talk to people.
Yeah.
So keep spreading it. I appreciate you. All of our listeners, we love and appreciate you, and just make sure that you keep telling the story, keep loving those people around you. And just remember that all of us are much more powerful than we were ever led to believe. So until the next Life West leadership line, but for both Dr. Xaivier and myself, we'll bid you adieu, and we'll see you next time. See you later.